and today I'll be introducing the topic of OSHA to all of you. After my introduction of OSHA, we will have Tom White discussing the procedure of inspection processes, followed by Chastity Busty, who will be talking about citations for violations. After Chastity, we'll have Krista explaining work safety in hospitals. Then Joanne Campbell will be describing OSHA's vital role in the construction industry. And lastly, Brandon will explore the topic of OSHA at Rowan. OSHA is an acronym for Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Implemented in the 1970s, OSHA is a federal agency whose mission is to assure safe and healthful working environments for working men and women by setting and enforcing standards and by providing training, outreach, education, and assistance. OSHA is a part of the United States Department of Labor. The administrator for OSHA is the Assistant Secretary of Labor for Occupational Safety and Health. OSHA's administrator answers to the Secretary of Labor, who is a member of the Cabinet of the President of the United States. In 2014, it was reported that 4,281 workers were killed on the job. While this number is alarming in itself, worker deaths in America are actually down on average, from about 38 worker deaths a day in 1970 to 13 a day in 2014. It is OSHA's regulations and standards which help to make such a drastic impact over the years. It is the employer's responsibility to provide employees with a safe workplace environment in accordance with all OSHA's safety and health standards, as well as making efforts to identify and correct these safety hazards. It is also required that employers attempt to reduce these issues through changing the current working conditions before resorting to personal protection. The employer is obligated to inform about hazards through labels, training, alarms, color-coded systems, and information sheets. It is also the responsibility of the employer to keep accurate and complete records of work-related injuries and illness. As for the rights of employees under OSHA law, workers have the right to working conditions that do not pose serious harm. Workers also have the right to receive information and training regarding hazards, how to take safety precautions, the OSHA standards that apply to their workplace, and the right to file a confidential complaint with OSHA to have their workplace inspected. OSHA also accounts for the rights of temporary workers who, under their law, are to be treated equally to permanent workers. Both the host employers and staffing agencies are held accountable over the temporary workers, which means that both could be held responsible for violating conditions set forth by OSHA. I work in accounting for a nonprofit for the homeless in Philadelphia, and this is a picture of me at my office next to our sign regarding OSHA regulations. I chose to share this as an example for this section because I wanted to show a real-life example that is a requirement to display these signs to inform workers about safety standards. The current standards set forth by OSHA involving general industry, construction, maritime, and agriculture are in place to protect workers from serious hazards. Various jobs that require dangerous tasks and even the lesser risk working environments have standards which enforce that employers provide certain requirements. Some examples of these requirements include, but are not limited to, preventing exposure to harmful chemicals, providing safety harnesses or guardrails, putting guards on dangerous machines, providing safety equipment, and extra training for especially dangerous jobs. A very important aforementioned aspect of OSHA is the requirement for employers to have accurate and complete records of workplace injury and illness. It is this requirement that allows for the proper prevention of future injuries within the workplace through examining the documentation of previous injuries and illness. OSHA has the authority to publicize standards that set the methods employers are legally required to follow to protect their workers from hazards. However, OSHA must go through a very extensive process that includes significant public engagement, announcement, and comment before it can issue a standard. Some examples of standards that OSHA has issued in recent years are General Working Conditions in Shipyards in 2010, New Record-Keeping and Reporting Requirements for Employers in 2014, and Improved Tracking of Workplace Injury and Illness in 2016. When it comes to regulated entities, OSHA is responsible for enforcing its standards through inspections. Inspections are planned for work sites and particularly hazardous industries where compliance, safety, and health officers carry out inspections and assess fines for regulatory violations. Inspections are typically conducted without advance notice, using on-site or telephone investigations, performed by trained compliance officers and scheduled based on priority. An inspection can also be triggered by complaints, workplace fatality, hospitalizations, or a referral. Since the onset of OSHA, various programs regarding training, health and safety recognition, and compliance assistance have been implemented. For example, OSHA's on-site consultation program offers free and confidential advice to small businesses all across the country, with priority given to high-hazard work sites. In addition, the Voluntary Protection Program recognizes employers and workers who have implemented effective safety and health management programs and maintain injury and illness rates below the national average for their respective industries. This concludes my section of the presentation. I hope that you feel more educated about OSHA, the role that it plays in protecting the workplace environment, and how it relates to human resource management. Next up to present is Todd White, who will be discussing the inspection process in more detail.
Thank you. Hey guys, my name is Todd White, and I'm going to be talking to you about how OSHA prioritizes the importance of an on-site investigation, such as imminent danger situations, worker complaints, and targeted inspections, and I will also be talking to you about the step-by-step procedure of an OSHA investigation. There are so many companies that need to be in compliance with OSHA standards that not all of them can be inspected within a year's time. There are companies that won't be inspected for months, years, or ever for that matter, and due to this matter, OSHA prioritizes their importance of investigations from hazards ranging from most serious to least serious. Imminent danger situations receive the top priority from OSHA instructors. Imminent danger situations are hazards that can cause death or present serious physical injury to an employee. If a company is suspected of having such a violation, they will be notified to remediate the situation immediately, or they will be asked to remove the employees away from the premises. Allegations of hazards at the workplace made by employees also receive a high priority. Employees can either choose to file on their own behalf or can choose to file anonymously by having a union file under their behalf. Referrals can also come from federal, state, or local agencies for an inspection to be conducted. Targeted inspections are inspections that are aimed at specific high-hazard industries or individual workplaces that have been known to have high rates of injury or illnesses, such as labor-intensive occupations. Follow-up inspections check for remediation of violations during past inspections. If an employee is aware of a violation at their workplace, they can choose to file a complaint by sending OSHA a written signed complaint that has enough detail to determine that a violation existed, such as this document here. Employees have 30 days to file and can also file through email, fax, or telephone. Employees might be fearful of filing a complaint against their employer due to fear of retaliation from their employee. OSHA's whistleblower statuses prevent employers from retaliating against employees. So employers cannot take action against the employee, such as demotion, firing, denying of benefits, or denying overtime. An inspection may be conducted with either advance or non-advance notice. Typically, they do not give advance notice, but will give a 24-hour advance notice if the company is suspected of having an imminent danger situation, or if the company would rather have the inspection done more efficiently after regular business hours. The OSHA compliance inspector on the scene must be up to date with the compliance training. The inspector must also have prior knowledge to what the violation is, so they can determine what the violation is at the inspection site. Also, they must have the proper tools to conduct the investigation. There are two types of investigations they may do. One is a program visit, which gives the inspector the right to examine the whole facility as long as management is present, and they also have access to private employee interviews. A non-program visit is strictly limited to where the investigation hazard or alleged complaint took place. Upon arrival, the inspector must give their credentials as a trained OSHA compliance inspector. The credentials would include a badge that has both a photograph of themselves and a serial number. The inspector on the scene must also state that they are trained in health safety, hazard safety, or both. During the opening investigation, the inspector will request to meet with management and employee representatives to discuss the scope of the inspection. The conference should be as brief as possible and will be held jointly between management and employee representatives. The conference will also consist of which records are going to be reviewed. During the walkthrough, the inspector, accompanied by the management and employee representatives, will walk around to discuss the safety hazards of the complaint. During the inspection, the inspector will encourage the workers to point out hazards or past accidents at the workplace, and if they deem it appropriate, they will increase the scope of the inspection to the entire workplace. During the inspection, and depending on what type of facility is being inspected, inspectors will be looking at things such as the machinery or equipment being used, manufacture of the equipment in case any is defective, condition of the equipment, electrical hazards, floor conditions, and environmental conditions such as noise level. The inspector will bring apparent violations to the attention of management and will be also taking handwritten notes to document all of the violations at the workplace. They will also be documenting evidence through videotape and photography, and it is also encouraged that employee representatives take notes as well. During the closing conference, the inspector will review all of the alleged violations that they saw. They will also discuss ways for remediation, set dates for remediation, and will discuss possible fines. Also, this is also a time for employees and management to ask questions pertaining to anything that was conducted during the investigation. At my job, I worked at a retail industry where we sold appliances, and my manager would willfully commit 2 violations. The first violation included returned merchandise that was usually broken, would be put in the boxes unsealed, and we would have big boxes in the middle of the walkway, so it would constitute as a tripping hazard. My manager failed to take into consideration that the boxes could constitute as a tripping hazard for both the elderly and little children that would run around the area. And also, they didn't take into consideration that debris such as broken plastic and broken glass could be on the floor and would constitute as an injury hazard if people were to step in the area. The second violation would be a leaky roof that was usually contained by a bucket. The leak was by an escalator and an elevator, and one day the bucket was not there and the roof was leaking. An employee tripped on the floor and broke their arm, and they filed a complaint to corporate representatives. Corporate representatives and HR both did an investigation and conducted an investigation pertaining to what happened and employees' view of the situation. After the investigation was conducted, it was deemed that my manager lacked awareness and was subsequently disciplined for their actions for failure to remediate. This concludes my part of the presentation, and next Chastity will be talking about employer responsibility after an inspection. Better.
So what every employer should know after an OSHA inspection has been conducted. Under the OSHA Act, employers have the responsibility to provide a safe workplace. So an OSHA compliance safety and health officer conducts an inspection to ensure you're complying with the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970. He then reports his findings to the OSHA director, who evaluates them. Nice window. So posting requirements. You must post your violation at the site of danger for 3 days or until corrected, whichever is longer. This notifies employees of the danger and prevents further injury or incident. So for each violation found, an officer will discuss the nature of the violation, possible measures you may take to correct them, the violation condition, possible abatement dates, any penalties that are directed towards the